Good morning, everyone. So in the last uploaded lecture, we discussed this implicit heat equation, implicit discretization of that, and we also discussed an algorithm which you can use to solve that discretized equation without having to find the inverse of the matrix, the coefficient matrix. So let us revise that a little bit and then we will move forward. So the heat equation it can be either heat equation or any other equation. If it is discretized in an implicit manner, that is, you have, let's say, Tn plus 1 minus Tn by delta T. It can be at ith grid point. So right now I am writing BTCS, discretization, backward in time. So this is n plus 1, which is a later time step, minus the previous time step temperature. So this is backward in time, and then alpha Ti plus 1 minus 2Ti plus Ti minus 1 by delta x square. And then the right hand side, if we take it as at nth time step, then you can see that you can write Tn plus 1 on the left hand side and all the terms at nth time step on the right hand side. So that will become explicit equation. But right now we would like to discretize it so that there are implicit terms here, so that it is implicit discretization. So let us write these temperatures at n plus 1. Okay, this is backward in time, central in space. Now you cannot write Tn plus 1 as a function of temperatures at nth time step. Then in this case, how do we solve for Tn plus 1? We discussed this. We said that we will write all of these equations. So we will write Tin plus 1 as a function of n plus 1 at other space points. Okay, I plus 1, I minus 1, and so on. And there will be Tn also, you can see here, this will go to the right hand side. So this is not just Tn plus 1, it is Tn plus 1 at different space points or grid points, and there is Tn also. Tn will be known because you know the initial conditions. So you know Ti0, let's say, then you can calculate Ti1, right? 0 plus 1, that becomes 1. When Ti1 is known, then you can calculate Ti2 from that. Okay, so there is no problem with this term. The problem is with these terms, because we do not know these terms. So what we do is we write these equations at all the grid points simultaneously. So T1, T2, T3, and so on up to Tnx. These are all at n plus 1. Okay, equal to all of these terms, right hand side. Now, how many unknowns are there? There are nx number of unknowns. And how many equations are there? There are nx equations. So this is a system of equations and it is linear. You can see that. Right? It is linear system of equations. So you can solve this using some matrix method. So we said that you can write it as some A matrix times this T matrix at n plus 1 equal to, so what we do is we take all this I plus 1 and I terms to the left hand side first. Okay, so that we can multiply this A matrix, which is the coefficient matrix, to all these Ti's, T1, T2, T3, and so on. So we have to rearrange this equation a little bit, take all the n plus 1 terms to the left hand side and all the terms at time step n to the right hand side. This is discussed in the previous recorded lecture, so you can go through that. So on the right hand side you have Tn. Now what is the solution to this? Tn plus 1 equal to A inverse Tn, right? And there are ways to do this. There is Cramer's rule and so on. There may be several methods. All of them require several steps. Finding the inverse or determinants of cofactors, all of these are expensive on a computer. So you require a lot of memory and a lot of time to execute these. So we want something that takes less time and gives accurate results. So there are several such methods. There are two classes. One class is known as direct methods, which means that in one step you get the solution like this method, but it is expensive. There are other direct methods, the one that we discussed in the last class, which is not so expensive. It is like a two-step method instead of one step. That is known as TDMA, tridiagonal matrix algorithm, also called as Thomas algorithm. And then there are iterative methods, which means you start with some guess value, guess the solution, and then you have some equations which you solve iteratively. So you find out the solution. Let's say you have an intermediate solution, let's say Tk at time step n plus 1, because you want to find out Tn plus 1. So it is the kth iteration value Tk n plus 1, and there are I also, so I comma k for a particular grid point at kth iteration. This is the solution, let's say intermediate, and then again you put this solution again here in this process, and gradually you change the values of these variables at every iteration, and this process is such that it guarantees that you are going to converge towards your final solution. So that's why there is this concept of convergence in CFD. So you start with some solution and you converge towards some solution, okay, which is your final solution. Please give me a minute. Right. Yeah. So we discussed this tridiagonal matrix algorithm in the last lecture. Today we will discuss these iterative methods. Iterative methods are easier in implementation, but they take some more time than these direct methods. Okay. The optimized direct methods. So this direct method takes a lot of time for large matrices. If you are talking about three-dimensional problems, then you will have several, like many unknowns. In that case, finding an inverse is very expensive, very time-taking. So iterative methods are better for them. And also we discussed that for this one-dimensional problem, this coefficient matrix, as you can guess, has three diagonals. This main diagonal, upper diagonal, and lower diagonal. Other coefficients are all zero. Okay. So that's why this algorithm is called tri-diagonal. So there are three diagonals. For that it is applicable. But if you have pentadiagonal matrix or more number of diagonals in case of 3D, then it is not applicable. So generally, the practical problems are in 2 dimensions or 3 dimensions. So there, this method is not applicable. But there are extensions of this method which you can use along with iterative methods, which are there. Okay. Is there any question up to this point? Okay. So we will move on to iterative methods to explain how a method can start with some guess value and give you a final converged result. We will take an example here. Let's say this is some unknown T1. This example is given in a book on CFD, which is not the textbook for this course. It is by Patankar, Heat Transfer and Fluid Flow. And let's say the second equation is T2 equal to T1 plus 1, so that it is a closed system. You have two equations, two unknowns. Now let us start with some guess value. The most simple guess would be 0, 0, let's say. T1 is 0, T2 is 0. This is a particular method that we are using. This is known as Gauss-Seidel method. Okay. Now, the first iteration. T1 is 0 in the first equation and T2 is 0. So first equation, unknown is T1. We put T2 equal to 0 and see what T1 we get from there. If you put T2 equal to 0, you get T1 equal to 0.2 in the first iteration. And if you use this updated T1 value that you got in the second equation, you get T2 equal to 1.2, 1 plus 0.2. This is the first iteration. This is done. Now these values we are going to use in the second iteration. Second iteration. So just a quick question. How many of you know about this method already? Can you write in the chat window? Okay, fine. So this is the first step. We take T1 equal to 0, T2 equal to 0. Actually, T1 equal to 0 was not even required. Just T2 equal to 0 was required because first equation has T1 on the left hand side. We are going to calculate T1 from the guessed value of T2. So we calculated that T1 came out to be 0.2. Then we used that updated value of T1. We are not using the guessed value of T1 now for the second equation. So this is the process that we followed. Then the second iteration. Now T1 is 0.2 and T2 is 1.2. We use T2 equal to 1.2 in the first equation. T1 is 0.4 into 1.2 plus 0.2. Okay. Uh, so this is 0.48 plus 0.2, 0.68. And then we use this updated value 0.68 in the second equation, T2 equal to T1 plus 1, and we get T2 equal to 1.68. Then similarly, you can imagine what will happen in the third iteration and so on. So you can see what this looks like and what is the solution of this equation. Can you find out the solution of this equation? Because it is very easy to find out. You just have to replace T2 in the first equation and you will get the values of T1 and T2. Can you let me know the solution quickly? The actual solution. Okay, fine. So 1 and 2. If you put T2, T1 equal to 1 here, T2 comes out to be 2. And you can verify that from the first equation. All right. So if you plot that graph for T1, let's say, versus iterations, k iterations, the first iteration, second, third, and so on, you should ultimately converge towards the solutions for T1 and T2, 1 and 2. So let us plot it for T1. It came out to be 0.2. So the initial guess was 0, let's say. It came out to be 0.2 here. Then it came out as 0.68 here. And if you do this, you will see that it gradually converges towards this value 1. And similarly, T2 will converge towards the value 2. You can do this exercise and you will find that. But if you just reorder these equations, if you write these equations at T1 equal to T2 minus 1 and T2 equal to 2.5 T1 minus 0.5, still the solution is same. You can verify. T1 is 1 and T2 is 2. That is the solution of this equation also. We have just rearranged it slightly. Now if you follow the same procedure what we followed there, you will see that the solution diverges. It does not converge to a particular value. It goes to infinity or minus infinity. So this procedure does not work for all cases. This Gauss-Seidel procedure. The equations have to be written in a certain way for it to be give converged result. Okay. So mathematically, someone has derived that criterion for convergence that is known as Scarborough criterion. Or there are actually two conditions, but you can write them as a one condition. So this is summation of all the coefficients in the equation. So let us write them as A. These are the coefficients in an equation. Okay. Divided by the coefficient of the variable that you are calculating this value for. This should be less than or equal to 1 for all the equations, and it should be strictly less than 1 for at least one equation. Okay. So let us take the example of the heat equation again. What are the coefficients here? So let us write it again and then we can find that out. Okay. Let us take delta T to the right hand side and call this whole thing as some R. So what is the coefficient of Tin plus 1 if we take everything to the left hand side? Tin plus 1, and this is 1 plus 2R. What is the coefficient of Ti minus 1 n plus 1? It is minus R. And the coefficient of Ti plus 1 n plus 1 is also minus R. And on the right hand side you have Tin. So we are talking about the coefficients. If you now make the matrix of coefficients for T, if you start with T2, if T1 is already known as a boundary condition, T3, T4 and so on. If you put T2 here, I equal to 2, that is, then this will be a known quantity because this is boundary condition. It will go to the right hand side. Okay, all the knowns you can send to the right hand side, and this coefficient matrix will be 1 plus 2R minus R 0 0 and so on, because in the first equation when you put I equal to 2, you will have T2 and T3. Similarly, if you put I equal to 3 here, you will get minus R 1 plus 2R minus R 0 and so on. Then 0 minus R 1 plus 2R minus R 0 0 and so on. So this is the tridiagonal matrix that you get when you do this. Now what the condition says is that the sum of all the coefficients of all the unknowns, and it is a mod, so it doesn't matter whether it is on the right hand side or left hand side, it is a mod. So let us do that. Okay, when I say sum of all the coefficients, that means all the coefficients leaving the unknown that you want to calculate. So in this case it is T2. So let us leave this coefficient from here and calculate for the other coefficients. Okay, this one and so on, all the coefficients, and also the coefficient of this Tin. So you can see it is 1 plus 2R is the AP, mod, which is the denominator which you want to calculate, and mod A and B summation. This is R. If you just take the left hand side of this matrix, and right hand side you can say 1 at the max, or you can just leave that out. So this is for the first equation. The second equation, A and B summation is 2R. So this R and this R becomes 2R, and mod AP is still 1 plus 2R. So you can see that summation mod NB is always less than 1, less than mod AP. So this ratio is always less than 1 for this equation. So for this equation written in this form, which means that your unknowns are T2, T3, T4 respectively in all these equations, if you write like that. So T2 n plus 1 equal to everything on the right hand side, then T3 n plus 1 equal to everything on the right hand side. If you write the equations in this order and you start with the guess for T3, T4 and so on and calculate T2 from there, then use that and the other guesses to calculate T3 from the second equation in this order. If you do it, then it is guaranteed that it will converge. Okay, but if you change the order, or if you change the order somewhere here, then it is not guaranteed. Then you have to again check whether the sum of all the other coefficients divided by the coefficient of the unknown, that is less than 1 or not. If that is satisfied, only then it is guaranteed that you will attain convergence. Is this clear? Is there any question? Okay. So one more uh, point to note here is that this is a sufficient condition. For those of you who may know about sufficient and necessary conditions in maths, sufficient condition means that if this is true, then it is guaranteed that it will converge. If it is not true, then it may converge or may not converge. So it is not necessary for this to hold for convergence. This is only a sufficient condition. Even if this does not hold, it may converge in some cases. Okay. So now we will do this in MATLAB. From here, I'll create a new script. We'll again give these. Okay, I can go here maybe. Okay, seems like that is not there, the old file. So we'll just create one here. Let's say the length of the rod is 1. Number of grid points are 101, and dx will be L by nx minus 1. All of this we have discussed. Then number of time steps that we want to take, let's say 100, and dp, or we can say we can give a final time for which we need the answer. let's say 5 seconds or something. And then we can have dt. If time step start from 1, then this will be df by nt. Then we have to take nt equal to 101. Now what we did earlier was we had a while loop, or we can have for loop if we know the exact number of time steps, or we can have while loop. We can say that while t is less than tf, it should run this while loop. And let's say t starts from 0. It's giving some error here. Let's say it says end might be missing, so we'll add end while. Okay, and then t will become t plus dt. This is another way of writing it. Either you can write for some n going from 1 to nt, or you can write this. Just a minute, ये मॉनिटर ले सकते हैं. Okay, so yeah, now we need to write the equation itself. What is ti n plus 1 equal to? Let me write it here. This is the value for ti n plus 1. So if we take some guessed values for ti minus 1, ti plus 1, all of these, then ti n plus 1 can be calculated. The intermediate value can be calculated from this formula. So let us go back there. We will write e mu I equal to r times, we have to define all these parameters, r and other things. E mu, this is I minus 1, this is I plus 1, right now let me write it as it is. So this was t old at I. It is complaining about this t new I, all of these things. So let us define what is I. I is the space. So you have to go to all the space points for I equal to 1 to nx. But 1 and nx we already know. These are the boundary points. So we'll go from 2 to nx minus 1. Similar to what we did earlier. Now what is this t new? We need to define this. T new is zeros nx comma 1 And we will see that we don't need t old, but let us just write it as t new. But first we can define all the boundary conditions. So t new 1 is, let's say, 0, which we need not write, but I'm just writing it so that we can change it here. So t new nx is 100. Okay. Now we can only do this inside that loop, inside a number of iterations. So we have to do this again and again until convergence. What is the meaning of convergence? So let us go back there. We don't know a priori what the solution is. Like we knew for these equations, we knew that it is 1 and 2. But here we don't know the actual solution. So how do we know when to stop these iterations? What we'll do is we will see what is the difference in the values at some iteration with respect to the previous iteration. So this difference we will measure. If this difference, that is in the y values here, if this difference falls below some tolerance, then we will say that it has converged. So it will continue to approach the final solution. So if it goes to some difference value, let's say 10 to the power minus 6, then we'll say that it has converged. The difference in the present iteration value and the previous iteration value. And for nx number of points, what we can do is we can add all the mods of the differences and say that the entire sum should be less than some tolerance value. So at all points, we want the difference to go down. Is that clear? Okay. We'll say that while the difference value or error, let's say, is greater than the tolerance we want to run this. Okay, we will run this until it is greater than tolerance. When it is less than tolerance, it will go out. So this tolerance value, we can set it to be 10 to the power minus 4 for now, let's say. Okay. And what is this error we need to define now? Initially, we can set error to be some large value so that it enters this loop at least. If we start it with 0, then it will check this condition, error is greater than 10 to the power minus 4 or not. If it is 0, error is 0, then it is not greater than 10 to the power minus 4. It will not even enter this loop. So we can say error is 1 initially so that it enters. And for all the points, it calculates the new temperature. For one iteration, it will do that. Then here we can calculate the difference between the new and the old temperature. So this error is the absolute value of T new minus T old and the sum of all the elements in that array. Okay. And then you can scale this by some number. It can be the boundary value because you know that this will go to 100 maybe in some regions of space. So you can do that, but it is not required here. Okay. So this is error, sum of the absolute values. How that works is, let's say that your matrix mat1 is -1, -2, -3, and you take the abs of mat1. This gives you 1, 2, 3, and then you say sum mat1. That is the sum of this matrix, -1 plus -2 plus -3. And if you do sum of absolute values of mat1, this gives you 6. So here we are first taking the absolute value of this matrix, subtracting absolute values of old matrix, and then taking sum of all the elements. If you are doing it in Python or some other programming language, then you may have to write a for loop here also for summing all the absolute values. Okay. I hope this is clear till now. If you have any question, you can ask. Okay. We need to define this R value. Let's do it here. Alpha dt by dx square. And what is alpha we need to define? Let's say 0.001. But will it converge if it is 0.001? Can you write in this chat window whether it will converge if I take, let's say, 0.1? Will it be unstable or stable? Yeah. So we are using BTCS implicit scheme. Therefore, it will be stable even if we use a higher value of alpha. Okay, and we will check that. That is the benefit of BTCS scheme. Keeping dt dx same, we can increase alpha. Okay. So we have defined R. Now, yeah, let us try to run this and let us try to plot it. We'll plot x versus t new. We have to define what is x. We'll do that. You have to save this. Let's write implicit. You can see it is running. It is showing as busy here on the left hand bottom corner. So it is taking some time to do this. You can see it is taking a lot more time than explicit scheme. So right now we don't even know at what time it is currently. Let us just pause this, quit this, and we'll print the time also, so that we know where it has where it is right now. So if you don't put a semicolon, it will print it. Let us do it again. It seems like it has not even gone to the second time step. It is still in this loop. So let us increase this tolerance 10 to the power minus 1 and see again. Let us also write the error. Oh, error is infinity. So what is the problem here with this code? Can you try to debug this just by looking at it? So we discussed something just before this, Scarborough criterion. In that we said that the coefficient of this left hand side t nu I, which we are calculating right now, the mod of that should be greater than the sum of all the coefficients of the other unknowns. So here you can see that the coefficients here are r for t nu and r for t nu I plus 1. So I minus 1, I plus 1 both have coefficient r. So the sum is 2r. But the coefficient of t nu right now is 1. So which is less than that. Therefore it is unstable. Okay, it is diverging. What we have not done here is we have not divided by this 1 plus 2r. So let us divide by this 1 plus 2r. Okay, and then run it again. So now it is writing 655. Let's comment this. Still, so when we did not comment error, it was writing 655.377, which was a constant. So somehow it is constant throughout. Again, there is some problem. The error is not converging to 0. It is not going below the tolerance. So now again there is some problem. Okay. So you are saying that the error should be, yes, this is inside the second while loop. So this is where this while loop ends. This while loop ends here. We are calculating these values at all i's and then finding the error finally after calculating for one iteration. This loop is for one iteration. Okay, so I'll send this code to you all, and in the next class we will discuss this. Okay, you can find out the error and you can send me. There are no marks for this, but still you can do that. Okay, thank you. If there are any questions, you can ask. Okay, if no, we'll end here. Thank you.